Good day, class. Now, today we are going to continue the Reconstruction. We're going to get into more about Johnson vetoing bills and things like that, and also this little particular incident which the United States basically doubled in size. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. Okay, so again, be sure you either have the packet or you have some lined sheets of paper to take the notes and to do the warm-up. Okay, so let us begin. So here's the warm-up. Now, just like the other ones, write down what do you see in this picture. Create a list of things you see in this picture. Now, once you have your list, what you're going to do is then answer this question. What do you think is going on? What's happening in this picture? All right. Be sure you give thorough, complete sentences. All right. If it's just one word answers type of thing, then I'm not going to give you full credit. You guys know this is an opinionated piece, but the only way you can be wrong is if you don't answer, you copy, or if your answers make no sense whatsoever. Okay, that's the only way you can be wrong. Other than that, if it makes sense and you can justify it in one way or another, you will get full credit. Okay. All right. So these notes are actually pretty short today. So this video will be probably one video. So let's begin with the notes. On February 19th, 1866, the Freedmen Bureau wanted to increase their power because as they were in the South and they were giving the food and clothing and negotiating contracts for the newly freed slaves, they realized that a lot of African American civil rights were being deprived by the people in the South, and they wanted to do something about it. And the thing is, they wanted some oomph, in a sense. They wanted some teeth to their bureau. And that way, if, let's say, an African American civil rights were being uh, deprived or misused or ignored, in a sense, that they could hold military trials for anyone who was doing that kind of stuff. So if a local politician or a local sheriff or a state governor was doing something to try to stop African American civil rights from being used, um, then they could attack them. They can get them, put them on trial, and things like that. Now, this seems like a legitimate no-brainer. You know, if anybody in this country's civil rights are being deprived, um, especially one ethnic group, then it seems like, again, an easy thing to say, yeah, we should have somebody look into this. That should be stopped right away. But President Johnson vetoes the bill. Now, again, from the last video, or the last time we were in class, you should remember what um, veto means and how Congress, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, can overturn a president's veto. Now, on July 16th, that's exactly what they did. They overrode Johnson's veto to the bill. Now, after that, there was this bill came up that, or an act, I should say, called the First Reconstruction Act, and it divided the South into 5 military districts. Okay, now the picture to your right shows all 5 districts. Okay, now in each district, a Union general was placed in charge of that district in order to maintain peace and, quote, protect the rights of persons and property. Now, I put the quote in there because I wanted you to see the exact words they used for the First Reconstruction Act. And if you notice, they don't say specifically white, black, poor, rich. It doesn't say. It just says persons and property. The reason they use that type of wording was so that it doesn't can't be said, oh, that's just to help these type of people. Oh, it's just a, this whole thing is for these type of people. So that way it could have less resistance when it gets to the Senate or the House of Representatives or even the president. That way, you could say they could easily say it's for all people, regardless of race or wealth or whatever the separation thing may be. But the thing is, Johnson sees this as that, oh, they're trying to help, um, the African Americans, the newly freed slaves. So he vetoes it, but Congress overrides him again. Now you're going to see as time goes on, their ability to override his veto, it comes quicker and quicker and quicker. Whereas when the first veto happened, it took months to override. But as time went on, they start to pick up the pace and um, they override them pretty quick. Now, after so many vetoes, Congress basically are like, we can't really trust Johnson anymore. This guy is just wrong. So they add some measures to kind of control him. Okay, now if you look at the picture to your right on the top, you'll see a little picture of him kicking like a chest down, or like a, I don't know what do you want to call that, uh, a bedside, table or whatever, a dresser. But he's kicking it, and it says Freeman, right? And you can see there's like little black people um, coming out of the drawers or on the ground, and above Johnson it says veto. Okay, so again, they're trying to say that he's using his powers to basically get them out, kick them out, or you interpret it the way you want to. Now, the two things they did was the Army Appropriations Act, which required the president to transmit his orders to the military through the commanding generals of the army in Washington. So instead of him giving straight orders to soldiers, it went to the commanding officers or generals of the army in Washington. That way they can kind of check on him, make sure that, hey, this doesn't sound right. So, and the other one was the Tenure of Office Act. Now, this one's pretty interesting. Okay. It forbidden Johnson from firing cabinet members without the Senate approval. Now, traditionally, a president can basically fire anybody he wants, because he hired them. But thing is, Congress again doesn't trust Johnson. So to kind of keep him in check and to make sure he doesn't get rid of people that Lincoln had in his office, um, they put this Tenure of Office Act. Now, just keep this act in the back of your mind, okay, because it will come over again. Now, two other acts that happened basically met the same fate as the other one, but again, just like the other ones, the Senate overrode Johnson. The first one was the Second Reconstruction Act, and this basically ensured that the black people were able to kind of get a vote. Now, the Third Reconstruction Act meant that voting rules in the South allowed military to use force to remove any state or local officials from trying to stop the Reconstruction process. Because again, a lot of governors, state senators, state representatives, um, even sheriffs, and anybody with authority, really, they would try to stop the Reconstruction effort one way or another, their own way that they could. And basically, the Third Reconstruction Act um, allows the military to use force to remove those people from office. Now, again, Johnson vetoed both those acts, but Congress overrode him quite easily. Now, there was one thing in Johnson's administration that was pretty interesting, that helped the U.S. actually. And at the time, it was known as Seward's Folly. Now, if you remember Seward from the time with Lincoln, from those videos, he was the guy who was stabbed um, uh, during the night that Lincoln was killed. And if you remember, he had that neck brace that saved him. Um, but the thing is, he continued on as Secretary of State, and he ends up buying the state of Alaska, what we know as the state of Alaska. They bought it from Russia for $7.2 million. Now, at that time, that was basically 2 cents an acre. And since there was 360 million acres, that's how you got the 7.2 million. Now, for those of you guys who don't really know what an acre is, um, there is a picture to your right of a football field, and basically it's from sideline to sideline and from end zone all the way to the 10-yard line. More or less, that's an acre, right? Again, it's not exact, it's more or less. Okay. Now just imagine that much land for 2 cents. Now your warm-up picture should kind of start to make sense. So if you pause this video right now and you look at the warm-up again, it might make more sense to you. Okay. Now your final question is this. Do you believe it was a good idea for Seward to buy Alaska from Russia? Why or why not? Justify your answer. Now, if you need to pause this video to pull up a picture of the United States or the world or the Western Hemisphere if you want, and that way you can see where Alaska is compared to where the United States is, to help you answer this question, by all means do that. But again, this is an opinionated question. So the only way you can be wrong is if you don't answer, you copy off someone else, or if your answer is just truly, truly left field wrong and you do not justify it. You cannot explain it. Okay. So here's the writing prompt. I believe that Seward buying Alaska from Russia was a good idea, bad idea, because, and explain yourself. Okay. Now, that's the end of this video. Be sure that you turn in the notes into the black basket next to the door. And again, make sure your name's on it. Okay. And that you did start it off with the warm up because that's how I'm going to tell. If you wrote on lined sheet of paper, that's how I'm going to tell which notes are which. Okay. So with that being said, we are done for this lesson. I hope you learned something new and you guys have a good day.